Welcome to today's long-awaited OpenGPU deep dive video. In today's video, we will specifically look at what supports this and why I see extremely much potential in today's project. You know, on my YouTube channel, I haven't uploaded individual videos of specific project presentations for a while, but today it is absolutely essential that I do this deep dive. You have also been waiting for a long time. It has been long awaited on your part. It was also the only project that was placed in the 100x category in the last video. And yes, I still believe that OpenGPU can achieve 100x during the upcoming bull run. This is not meant to be a Moonboy prediction video. We will rely on numbers, data, and facts here. I will shoot a detailed deep dive for you, and of course, it should be mentioned that I am not paid by OpenGPU. It is very important for me to have mentioned that. Of course, when someone expresses a bullish opinion about a specific crypto project, thoughts quickly arise like, hey, is Vincent being paid or something similar? No, I am not. But I simply see a tremendous amount of potential here in 2021, and I can well imagine that in a year we will look back at this video and mourn the prices from that time. I just want to help my community get the absolute maximum out of the upcoming bull run. And that is exactly why there is another specific individual video about OpenGPU today. Of course, this is also not financial advice. If you enjoy videos like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe now. Definitely write in the comments what you think of OpenGPU. Of course, you can also feel free to write other projects in the comments, and I can then shoot a video about them in the coming days for other deep dives. Now we start here with OpenGPU, but before we dive deep, I want to mention one thing. The current altcoin market, all altcoins accumulated here based on the chart, crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, has recently experienced a sustainable breakout over the last few days. We see here this breakout from this eternally long downward consolidation phase throughout the entire summer. We had seen so many altcoins bleed out over the complete summer slump. Here, this chart is from March 2024. For several months, we haven't had any significant higher highs or higher lows, but now we have sustainably broken the trend, which is why I am so bullish about the overall altcoin market. There will be a specific video about this coming tomorrow or the day after. Now let's take a look at OpenGPU first, but there will be a detailed video about it coming tomorrow or the day after. Otherwise, we also see the chart here, which is one of the most positive signs of OpenGPU itself. The chart speaks for itself. So we will naturally also talk about the deep dive into what OpenGPU has to offer technologically. But purely from an investor's perspective, purely from a chart perspective, what OpenGPU has delivered over the entire summer lull is truly impressive. And we really need to keep in mind that this is about the DePin project, not the MemeCon project or anything similar. It is really deep in the narrative. It has held incredibly strong, and additionally, we currently have a market cap of 18 million. So here it shows 11, but on DEX tools it's 18 million. It's really impressive, and of course there is also tremendous explosive potential in it. It can happen relatively quickly, going from 20 million to 100 million, 200 million. We see it with other competing projects, some of which are already at 200, 300 million, and the largest competitor is already in the multi-billion range. So we can already see what is possible with other competitors in 2021, and that's why we are still completely at the beginning when it comes to OpenGPU. As mentioned, here's a little tip. Never rely on the numbers and data from CoinMarketCap, as they are often not accurate. Currently, we also have the circulating supply here, and we will discuss it in detail regarding the tokenomics, but 100% is already present, so we will take another deep dive into this shortly. I have created a small presentation here just for you, so that you can get a nice overview, summarizing all the points again. DePin AI narrative 16 million market cap, respectively. Currently 18 million, current price 0.70. The ticker is OpenGPU as mentioned earlier. I really like the chart itself, but we will talk about how OpenGPU looks chart-wise later. Otherwise, as an explanation, OpenGPU is a decentralized platform that provides a scalable, secure, and efficient solution for AI applications by offering a global GPU sharing network, essentially decentralizing GPU computing power to train AIs. It is currently one of the largest use cases in the crypto market, also for large other companies. We have seen it, the Nvidia stock was at one point the largest stock in the world, and this shows us the enormous demand for GPU computing power for the entire AI sector, and of course, a lot is coming our way. I generally think that AI developments will increase exponentially, and so will the infrastructure. You have to imagine that GPU computing power is like fuel for AIs, to be able to train AIs, and therefore it is naturally a tremendous use case in itself. And that's why we naturally have other strong competing projects in this sector, but accordingly, OpenGPU has also positioned itself here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the project aims to decentralize the whole thing. Otherwise, OpenGPU addresses the challenge of centralized systems by providing a cost-effective and more accessible solution, especially with OpenGPU, in contrast to other projects where GPU computing power is made available, particularly with Render, Akash Network, or others. It is often the case that you can rent GPU computing power by the hour. And now with OpenGPU, we have usage until the completion of the entire project. So one can now essentially set up a certain AI project together with OpenGPU, rent computing power there, and the entire contract will last until the project is truly completed. This is of course a significant advantage, and we will discuss it further later. They have a relatively unique auction system that really looks at where the most efficient opportunities are to obtain GPU computing power. This is also solved significantly better than with others. Otherwise, the entire project was founded in 2017. Yes, the chart is relatively new, but here we really have substance and significant work has already been done in the background. So, it is truly not a project that was launched overnight, it has been around for a bit longer. Otherwise, let's take a look at the tokenomics. So, we have a complete fair launch, and it should be noted that all team tokens that are currently available were purchased after the launch, which is something you really see very, very, very rarely. Also, 100% of the tokens are in circulating supply, so we have no inflation coming our way with this project, making it the best foundation to build upon. It really doesn't get any better than this. There are 21 million tokens available, which strongly reminds one of Bitcoin. It's exactly the same as Bitensur, which is why this project also gives me early Bitensur vibes, just from a feeling perspective, and there are many parallels to be drawn with Bitensur as well. Otherwise, the limitation per wallet is 2% of the supply, so we do not have the problem of some whales dominating the entire market. The project itself can be manipulated. This is, of course, a significant advantage for regular investors who do not have much capital, as they are not affected or manipulated by whales. This is often a major problem, especially with other low-cap projects that engage in pump and dumps, and it is well addressed in this case. Otherwise, as already mentioned, no team tokens are available. All team tokens were acquired only after the launch. A 5% tax on all buying and selling transactions can be seen both positively and negatively, it should be noted. In my opinion, we have not liked such projects in the past, at all. So it should be mentioned that we have seen many other projects that simply imposed a 5% tax on all transactions, and it is mostly referred to as a tax farm, meaning a kind of tax farm where the project benefits enormously from all the taxes generated through the transactions. In my opinion, this is not a major disadvantage in this case, simply because the foundation is given as all coins are already in circulating supply and the team only acquired the tokens after the launch. These are, of course, perfect basic conditions, and therefore, in my view, it is also acceptable that a 5% tax applies to purchases and sales, so that the team has additional liquidity to further develop the project. So that's why, in my opinion, it's okay. We also see here that the overall tokenomics in the liquidity pool are currently 90%, and they are locked for over 21 years, so there is really no need to worry. As mentioned, locked through the smart contract, otherwise we have another 5% left for centralized exchanges, and partnerships at 5% are absolutely fine. So, in my opinion, you can't have better tokenomics. Now let's move on to the next green flags that OpenGPU exhibits. However, I want to emphasize that before we get into the individual positive points, what I actually noticed while recording this entire video is that I really don't want to come across as some kind of moon boy making crazy predictions. At the end of the day, I want to emphasize once again, before any viewers from my community put their life savings into this, that I really want to say, before we get into positive aspects, it is ultimately a complete low cap project with extremely high risk. So it is really a risk of 8 out of 10, it hardly gets any higher. Of course, with meme coins, the risk is even greater, but it must be said that OpenGPU is still completely at the beginning. Other projects in this sector have already demonstrated significantly more, especially Render, which has strong partnerships with Nvidia and so on. But I am really speaking here only from the perspective of the investor. The foundation in this case is strongly established. I see quite a bit of potential here, but one must always consider everything in relation to investments, especially in such small projects. Investing only a fraction of the portfolio in such projects if one decides to invest at all. Otherwise, I also like to say in the videos, watch me instead, be cautious at first and see how the project develops. But let me put it this way, the circumstances are very good, which is why I wanted to make today's video and why I am speaking so bullishly and positively about the project. However, I really want to emphasize that one must be cautious here. I definitely do not want to convey a false impression, and I also want none of you to invest disproportionately, even though there is certainly potential. It is naturally contradictory on one hand, but I really want to make it clear again, so it doesn't come across like 2021 when I make a Moonboy prediction here. It was definitely important for me to mention that. Otherwise, Greenflex, what we have is a unique auction system that naturally distinguishes the OpenGPU from other projects. In other projects, it is simply the case that one can rent designated GPU computing power and just see what is left. In the case of OpenGPU, it is indeed the case that the overall market is viewed in a decentralized manner, looking for the most efficient ways to obtain new GPU computing power, which providers are currently available to offer GPU computing power, and accordingly, one can then rent the GPU computing power at the end of the day. This is of course a significant advantage and is clearly more efficient than other projects. In addition, OpenGPU is significantly more scalable than other competitors and aims to become its own layer 1. Currently, everything runs on Ethereum, so everything is on that terrain, but in the future, OpenGPU wants to decouple from that and set up its own layer 1. Additionally, which is also very positive, especially for such small projects, the team is, in quotation marks, publicly available through a CertiK audit. We can take a look here. The score from the CertiK audit for 2021 is extremely strong. It is, of course, a good foundation, and especially for the size, it must be said that it is truly a rarity for there to be an audit from CertiK, as it is the best authority for audits because CertiK is regarded as the highest. So that you are also informed about this, they basically handle all the project reviews, where you can take a detailed look at everything in piece. Everything is really controlled from A to Z and everything is double checked. We also had a slightly worse score back then, it should be noted. Back then, OpenGPU was at 75-77, but you can also see here that this project is continuing to develop, addressing some security vulnerabilities so that a higher score can be achieved. And I would say that 88 is really very high. As mentioned, CertiK is very strict. You can't just get any good score here to use the whole thing for marketing or anything else. You cannot buy into the project here or anything like that. From the audit's perspective, it is definitely one of the best providers, and therefore, in my opinion, you can rely on it to some extent. And here we also see that the team is public, has essentially provided a kiosk gold verification, so this has been in place since June 18th. In 2024, we see here that we have a total of 5 team members who are publicly verified through this CertiK audit. Of course, it must be said that they are not publicly visible with their faces, so there is no public insight into who is really behind it. Nevertheless, through this audit, the team is, in quotation marks, public. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Otherwise, the next point is that the team and the developers are very transparent and active regarding technical and critical questions. Feedback from the community is also being implemented. That is extremely strong, and I have noticed that very positively. Overall, the community behind it is very tightly knit, it must be said. Similar to Casper. I don't want to claim that it's cult-like, but it's not necessarily that either. However, it is still a very tight-knit community with strong cohesion, and this naturally shows in the chart, as you rarely see such a chart. Almost every altcoin project was heavily punished throughout the entire summer slump, but with OpenGPU, we really have an extremely stable chart to show. We have repeatedly reached higher interim lows. We can take a look at the chart, where we also see higher interim lows. It is truly a rarity throughout the entire summer lull, and it is, of course, an extremely strong accumulation phase. I have also said in other videos that this is almost like the beginning of an exponential curve, so I can well imagine that the loading phase is taking place here and that sooner or later the rocket will simply go up. So I could imagine it roughly like this, because believe me, I speak from experience from the last cycle, especially with such projects, it can go faster than you think. So from a market cap of 20 million, it can relatively quickly rise to a market cap of 200 million. We have seen it with other projects. Take a look at projects like Destroy Network, we can take a look at it. It is of course also a competitor in the deep sector, also at 200 million, or other projects. Akash Network is already significantly higher, so we can see what is possible in other sectors. If we assume that OpenGPU becomes as big as Akash Network from this point, it would be about a 35x from the current point. We can also take a look at where Render currently stands. And we are really talking about the market cap that is currently present. A Render in the bull run is also likely to reach 30 billion. So this is really just the beginning, but even at the current time, we are already at a good 3 billion for Render. That would be 150 times at the current moment from OpenGPU. So a good 100 times is definitely possible in my opinion. We are currently only at a 2 billion market cap. It could very well be possible, especially if everything develops as indicated. I also recommend that everyone do their own research again. Additionally, take another look at the white paper. It is absolutely essential to form your own opinion here and not make your own investment decision based solely on a video from my side, because the entire video is not financial advice, and that should be mentioned again. Otherwise, let's take a quick look at the website again, which I actually quite like. It has also been updated, could be better in my opinion. The marketing could also be a bit better. Yes, that might be the only point of criticism, but we have seen it already. So OpenGPU has relatively good attention. We have also seen it now. We received a new piece of news on September 25th, 2 days ago. In this case, we have a new collaboration, a new partnership with Paul. AI is of course also a positive point when partnerships are formed. And also here, just to conclude, we can take a look at the comparison with other projects. I don't want to make it too big because of my face cam. However, let's see what advantages OpenGPU offers. We have an AI training interface, AI model execution, de-rendering is also available, which is otherwise only present in Render, and game streaming. So we already have clear, unique selling points regarding OpenGPU, and that's why I'm so bullish. The foundation is in place. I would say it fits the narrative perfectly. We have the perfect foundation in terms of tokenomics. We have no further inflation. We have the team behind it that has really worked very hard throughout the entire summer lull. Many projects have faltered, I must say that clearly. So if I take a look at my watch list of all the coins, we can also take a look at it. It is also the case that many projects have really died off, been punished because they simply have not delivered anymore. So many hidden gems from back then, or projects that were still completely at the beginning, did a bit of marketing and then simply stopped their marketing, which is why they were extremely, extremely punished. And such a chart is of course something completely different compared to OpenGPU, which remains relatively stable. So much for my personal opinion. Yes, I am invested. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but I think it's relatively obvious. I also mentioned it in the last videos, so you are completely informed about it. Of course, one could accuse me of having a certain self-interest in pushing OpenGPU or something else, but that is why it was very, very important for me to communicate everything transparently with you. Yes, I am invested, and yes, I also see a lot of potential, but I have also told you to be extremely cautious. It is a project that is completely at the beginning. Focus instead on the high caps, on a render or other established projects where you may have a smaller risk. Here, it really has explosive potential as it is still in its early stages, but correspondingly, the risk is also present. That's all for today's video regarding OpenGPU. It was definitely important for me to shoot today's deep dive for you. I could have gone much deeper, especially regarding the entire technology, but I think that would bore most of you because at the end of the day, anyone who really wants to invest should definitely do their own thorough research before making any investment. But I have summarized the main positive points and also addressed the risks. Of course, at the end of the day, anything can happen with such projects. We have also seen it with other hidden gem projects like OPSEC or whatever, that they were hacked. Externally, anything can happen, so there is always some residual risk. Nevertheless, it was important for me to shoot today's video for you, and of course, be sure to write in the comments which project I should analyze next and which project I should cover next. I am definitely curious about your opinions. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments about OpenGPU, where you think OpenGPU will stand in 1 or 2 years after the bull run, what your price target is, whether you are investing, yes or no, and also feel free to include that in the comments. Otherwise, I sincerely thank you for your attention. I would say, see you in the next video, 2021.